Okay, so you guys, why don't you first of all tell us who your client was?
So our client is Dave. He is a quadriplegic, but his injury functions as a paraplegic, so he just can't walk or move anything from the waist down. And so his problem was finding a way to be able to hold his children's hands while crossing the road, while also moving himself in his wheelchair.
Okay, and your initial time when you met Dave, was it face-to-face, or did you have to, like, Zoom him? Like, how was your initial empathy building with him?
It was over Zoom.
Over Zoom, okay.
Yeah.
Did you ever get to meet Dave, though, or not?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
you did. Okay, good. So what was your initial, so your problem that you felt that Dave had, or Dave told you he had, was being able to hold his kids' hands while he wheeled the chair, right? Okay, and how old were the kids?
They were 4 and 6.
Okay, so young kids.
Yeah.
And so you found that that was a good enough problem that you wanted to
Yeah.
help him solve that. Okay, so tell us about your solution first of all.
So our solution first started off as kind of like a pole for him to hold, but eventually we realized that wasn't going to work because he wouldn't be able to, like, it was behind him and it was just too much of a hassle. But then it eventually turned into this, which is kind of, it mounts to the chair just around the bars, and they kind of hold on to it kind of like a dog leash, but not really. It's nicer. So it just, they hold these little tassels. Each one is meant for a different kid. So one's more space themed, one is more like girl themed, and they can kind of hold on to it, and it goes around the chair wherever they need to go.
Okay, good. So the red part attaches to the chair.
Yes.
Okay. And then the handles hang on that other part that you just took off? Is that
Yeah.
the handles will have some hang, and that also attaches
Yep, it's just like Velcro's right around his.
Okay. On the same side of the chair. So you
Yeah.
oriented everything to the front part of the wheelchair.
Yeah.
Okay. Was he able to trial that out, or was it just I know he doesn't have that piece yet, but you did have him trial some of it.
Yeah, we had our initial, like our rough prototype when he came in, he trialed it. That's what we have here. I don't know if we can see it. But this initially Velcroed on the same position as this will go, and only the lead would sit in it, and the handles and everything were the same concept, but he really liked where it was positioned and how it functioned.
So that was one of the first prototypes. I know you had a couple of prototypes, but with that prototype, you realized that it was probably going to come off the wheelchair. So
Yeah.
then you made something that was more permanently mounted.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And then you're going to send that to him now, and hopefully you get more
Yeah.
feedback. All right, great. So a couple questions about the work as design thinking and as a team and collaborators. And I know that there was a third person, but she has since graduated, so
Yeah.
we're going to do just the two of you. So what was the most meaningful thing, and you can answer this separate, I want you to each answer it separately so you can decide who goes first. What was the most meaningful work that you have done within working with this client? What was the most meaningful work that you did?
The most meaningful work for me was being able to help someone with something that obviously meant a lot for him, because kids are most likely a big part of your life. So being able to make his life easier, it's not just like a one-time thing. It's for the rest of his life that could possibly change it. So it's not just a small thing.
Right, it's a big thing.
Yeah.
And it's part of his everyday life, right? So yeah, just being able to touch it and change his life. Good. What about you, Ashlyn?
Pretty much the same thing, honestly, is being able to reach out to somebody who, I mean, growing up with a paraplegic mom, I know that we had the same struggles of, trying to figure out logistically, like, how am I going to hold her hand? Like, how are we going to do this and this? So it was really impactful for me to be able to help somebody with similar issues that I grew up with and be able to actually help them, especially with Dave, because he fosters children. So it's never going to be a dull moment of no kids. I mean, he'll most likely be bringing them in all the time, and it's a cool way to help somebody.
Well, and that kind of answers the second question, is what, that I had was, why was it so personal to you? So for you, it was a very personal connection in the fact that you also have a mom who's a paraplegic. So there was that personal connection for you. Anything else that was personal about, like, finally meeting him? Was there a personal connection there once you met him, or did it just kind of stay that same? You still had that same drive?
So when we met him, we didn't know much about him before, but when we met him, we seen how nice he was and how open he was for this. So it was really nice to see someone getting this that was really excited for it.
Yeah, it was really nice to be able to meet him and actually see that he's way more flexible, more open to creativity. And I think we initially thought that he was really shut down to a lot of our ideas, but then he came in and he was like, "Oh yeah, I love it."
Right, and so when you showed him your prototypes the first time, you know, when he came and, you know, you showed him the prototypes, it didn't feel like that negativity kind of vibe. It was like, all right, this is a cool idea. Did you feel like he gave you, like, part of that process is feedback, right? And I know sometimes it's very scary, like you get feedback. I mean, for 12 years you've probably gotten feedback in classes and it feels like what? Like a defeat, right?
Yeah.
Did this feel like a defeat at that point when your actual client came?
No, not to me at least. I really think that it kind of propelled our ideas forward, and it almost gave us reassurance as to we're on the right track, because we doubted our prototypes a lot. So definitely.
Well, and you did have a lot of feedback from the people within class, like myself and Mr. Numidor, and we tend to look at, and you know, we just try to do that knowing before the client comes, like the whole, like, have you thought about this happening, or have you thought about that happening? And then when you fix some of those things before your client comes, it does feel successful, but it is good. I mean, I think we spend so much time in school, right, getting that negative feedback, that when you get this kind of real life feedback, like this guy just wants you to design this thing for him, right? So he's going to give you the feedback to make you successful.
Right.
So good, I'm glad you felt that way. Do you feel like you've been successful in this class?
Yeah, very much. So for me, at the beginning of the year, I was very like timid and scared, and I didn't even know what Ashlyn was at the beginning of the year. But as we kind of got together, it was more. I was more open to talk to everybody, and then I learned so much. I learned how to use different CAD programs, different people. I learned a lot about just disabilities in general, and it was a good experience.
Good. So it's that collaboration, right? You really felt like, wait a minute, I don't really need a teacher in here. I need these other people to help me be successful. And you need more than just the teacher of the class. You needed welding. You need, like you said, you still needed your CAD teacher. So you had all those experience. So that made you feel more successful doing some things that you probably wouldn't have done in a different class, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. What about you, Ashlyn?
Yeah, kind of put in the same, just getting to know more people and be able to collaborate in different ways I never thought. I mean, and I learned to just push through a lot of struggles too. I mean, I know that a lot of us clashed heads in the beginning because ideas just were not flowing, but it definitely taught me more about how to really work with different groups of people and try to just make use of what we have in the moment and just try to put our brains together.
And that is part of the process, right? Part of that process is that pain, like you spoke about. You feel stuck a lot of times, and sometimes you feel stuck longer than others. And also, I mean, if you speak to how this year was, right? I mean, you had 2 days a week, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was supposed to be, 30 days together. You were supposed to be together for, 5 days a week, and so, I think that you have to also cut yourselves slack in that, in that situation, because you had 2 days together and then 5 days away from each other. Which was, different than we've ever done the class before. So good. What did you learn about yourself, and particularly something that you might take with you when you go to college or work, whatever you decide to do? Is there any skill in this last year that you've learned that you think, wow, I use that now in the real world, so to speak? I know that you both still, you work outside of class, but even thinking about college or just work, is there anything, and it could be no, but is there anything that you learned that you feel better at, feel more successful at, or that you'd like to still work on towards getting better at it?
For me, it's like communication. That was a big challenge at the beginning, and so just being able to almost practice communication with not only our partners, but clients, and like with you trying to figure things out. That was a big thing, and that's really gonna help, I think, everybody
Good, yeah, and it is. Communication in the real world is different than communication in classroom, isn't it? And you definitely did get experience with that, right?
Yeah.
What about you, Zach?
Yeah, mine was kind of the same. Before, I didn't really communicate with people. I worked by myself, and I was always someone that wanted to work by myself, but when I got put in a group, at first it was really hard. It was learning to talk to other people about things, especially when I don't know what they're talking about at some points, they might not know what I'm talking about. It was a very big learning curve to communicate with them.
But you feel like you've made some progress towards that. And that's an important thing to do in college, right? And you especially came from a class where you didn't do a lot of collaboration. Did you? You worked on your projects at your computer. And so this was a big mind shift for Ashlyn. This was, we did a lot of group projects last year, so that's good. And you do need that in college, right? And you do need that in most work positions also. So good, glad to hear that. And then just to kind of wrap up, how did you feel about creating for someone other than me? Like, it wasn't that you were creating this for me. I'm not in a chair. I don't really, I care that you had a successful project, but how do you feel about creating? Did that make a difference? Because it's probably the first time you really made stuff. I mean, you might make a burger for people at McDonald's, but this is something that obviously could change somebody's life, right? So did it make a difference when you were making something for somebody?
I think so. It definitely, I keep saying like it pushed you, but it really did push you to just, you didn't want to stop because you didn't want to leave them hanging. So it really improved, like, I think us as a group, our drive to like work and just, I don't know, it was a cool experience and it really makes you feel good about what you're doing.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. It was also amazing when he came in to see how excited he was
Oh yeah.
and just how much it could change his life. So for
And you did that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you did that.
Yeah, we got to see him and do things for him. So it was amazing, and I learned so much from it, and I would gladly do it again.
All right. Anything you want to add before we're done? All right. It's been great having you guys. Thank you.